Hello, everybody. It's Miss Lyons here. I just finished the parent night presentation on how to check your grades. We had several of you show up, and I really appreciate that. But I also wanted to put this out there just in case you had some other plans or had some other things going on that you couldn't get here tonight. I know we're all busy. First thing I want to start with, as always, is our mission and vision. It's so important to us. We talk about it every day. Our mission is always high levels of engagement through multisensory learning experiences. Now, this is all an effort to increase depth of knowledge on our essential learning. Our vision is to develop a community that fosters and develops healthy, lifelong learners, innovators, problem solvers that contribute to their community. That's what it's all about. That's why checking grades is important. We want your support, and we want you to have the support to help us develop our children into the best that they can be. As we get started on the presentation, I'm going to try to go through this pretty quickly. You can scan the QR code over here, and that will get you a copy of this presentation. In that presentation, you'll be able to click on this 3-minute video and it will help you log on. I'm not going to take the time to do that in this video, but this video that you can click on in the presentation is a video on how to log on and gives you a quick overview of how to check grades. Now, this video was made last year, and we have moved from plus and minuses to 3, 2s, and 1s. So at the end of this presentation, what you should be able to do is you should be able to log in. If you don't know your login, or the other parent has a login, kind of like I had that situation with my husband. He takes care of the lunch money, so he has that login. Anyway, so all you have to do is, once you log in, do forget password. The email you want them to send you a new password to is the email that you use to get any school communications. That is the one. So let's get started. At the end of this, you'll be able to log in. You'll know the purpose of grades in our Bentonville school system. You will know what a 3, 2, and 1 means. And you'll know when and how to communicate with teachers if your kid is struggling, or when should you be worried. We'll talk about that, and then how to help when your child is struggling academically. So I'm going to make myself smaller, and we're going to zoom through this tutorial. Okay, so let's start with the purpose of grades in our school system. So this is not just Old High's version of how we feel about grades. This is our whole entire district. Grades is such a strange thing now, because when we were growing up, we had A's, B's, C's. They skipped E for some reason, and F. So we knew what those were. We knew what was good in our family. We knew what was bad in our family, and that just made so much sense to us that switching to a 3-2-1, you do have to wrap your head around it. So that's why I want to help you with this. They're not really grades. It's just their mastery level, but we can call them grades because that's just easier to talk that way. So when we're doing these assessments and we're taking evidence on the assessments, we're trying to accurately reflect the student progress towards the mastery of those state standards. The state gives us a list of standards for every content and every grade and says, in this grade, in this content, these are the things that need to be taught, or things that need to be learned. Our teachers are tasked with that. Those are their goals. So we don't make those up. That is something that the state gives to us, and then we are getting students to their mastery level for those state standards. So in 5th grade science, it might be the cycle of matter. That's something they have to learn in 5th grade. But when we get into 6th grade, we're not talking about that anymore. We're talking about heat energy transfer. So each content and each grade level is tasked with different standards or learning targets. So what we want to do is we want to observe them, we want to ask them the right questions, and we want to see, have they mastered this concept? Do they understand this piece of learning? So we do that by observing them, by asking questions, I already said that, and then giving them a 3, 2, or 1. And we'll talk more about what a 3, 2, and 1 means, but we want to reflect what the student knows right then. We want to know, where are they at in relationship to the mastery. A 3 would be mastery. So we also want to give meaningful feedback because we want you to know exactly what your kid might be needing help with, or exactly what they're doing well. And we really go to the granular level there with how we look at the standards. And I'll give you some examples of that here in a minute. Um, this is just communication. It's just to let you know where they're at. We do not view grades as punitive or reward worthy. I know that I just talked in the presentation earlier that, I used to get $1 for every A I got. And I know we were rich, but so I got an A. But no one, we're used to grades being you get rewarded for good grades and punished for bad grades, right? But I can guarantee you that when your parents grounded you for bad grades, they weren't saying, I'm grounding you because you're not smart. That's not why we punish. It's really the behaviors behind those grades. Like, you haven't been focusing enough. You haven't been trying hard enough. That's why we get those punishments. And I'm all for whatever consequences your family's comfortable with if you feel like they have not been having the right behaviors. But what we're talking about today is we're talking about how are they doing with mastery. At the report card and at your parent teacher conferences, you will get a report on behaviors and work habits. But today we're just going to talk about academics. So let's talk about what is a 3, 2, or 1. Down here, we have the technical mastered all the learning targets for that standard, mastered at least 50%, or mastered less than 50%. Here's the deal. When you get a 3, it means that you get it. You understand it. And no matter how we ask you or the rigor of the question, you understand and you can get that correctly because you understand the concept that was taught. A 2 is they understand it some of the time or part of it, but when we ask them to answer the question in a different format or to explain it out loud instead of just answering multiple choice questions, they don't quite get it. They didn't get it right. So that's what a 2 looks like. It's just not a consistent understanding. And then a 1 is they do not understand the concept at this point. They just don't. That could look like we asked them questions and they got all of them wrong, or we had a discussion with them and they truly don't understand. That could be evidence of lack of understanding and no mastery. So we can take those pieces of evidence in lots of different ways. Okay. I hope that you're in your Teacher Ease account. We're going to go through this. The first thing that I want you to do is this is the page that you'll see. I want you to click on grades. I'm going to pull over my screen to where I already have a live version pulled up here of a student. Okay, so you can click on any of these things. I don't think it's helpful. And I'm going to kind of go into Mama Lions mode here too. If you're like me, I assume most people are. You can look at this, but it opens up something that is just confusing and I don't quite understand it. I'm going to show you the way that I think is the easiest to look at it. Click on grades. Click on this red grades button. Okay, this shows you all of the classes that your student is taking, and then it shows you their instructors. And then over here, you have these progress bars. Now, what you see is green is good, yellow is not as good. Okay, so green would be 3s, and yellows would be 2s, red would be 1. So here's what I want to go over. Number 1, the progress of the bar has nothing to do with how well they're doing. Like, you might look at this and say, oh, they have more green in music, so that must be what they're best at. Nope, not at all. I'll explain that here in a minute, but that is not the case. If you're like me, I wish, as a principal, I'm all about celebrating, but as a mama, the first thing I go towards is the yellow. So I want to know what's going on with the yellows. So that's what I'm going to help you do. We're going to start with technology. I see some yellow there. I see a lot more green than yellow, but this chart, I do not feel that it's helpful. You can click on it and see, and you'll find that it's not, or I don't think it is. I'm going to click on details because that is helpful to me. Let's start with the progress bar. You're going to see over here the green and a yellow. You're going to see that he's meeting 4 learning targets and he hasn't met 1. So that yellow is just 1 learning target. Here's what this means, 5 out of 19. There are 19 standards within the year that this teacher is expected to give you feedback on. All right, 19 standards in the entire year. So it's technology. So 19 is actually a lower number. Right now, we're in the first quarter. I'm not even done with the first quarter. He has only assessed 5 of those learning targets. That's fine. We have a lot more year left, but that's what you see. By the end of the year, this whole bar should be full because all 19 should have been assessed or taken evidence for. So let's look at the 5. I'm going to minimize some of these right now. These are the 5. Well, these are the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the 4 that he has assessed. And I see that this is a 3, and this is a 3, this is a 2, and this is another 3. Let's start with this first one. I'm going to kind of explain. So, demonstrate touch typing techniques while increasing speed and maintaining accuracy. Okay, so that's typing. We're learning how to type. I can click on this, 24 words per minute. It looks like Mr. Gormley here has taken 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of evidence to see if this child can do 24 words per minute. Okay, what you see here is calculated and there are check marks. That means that these 3 grades have gone into the calculation of this 3 right here. Here's how it works. And if you ever forget, you can always click the calculator. The calculation is based on the mode of the 3 most recent scores. All right. So the 3 most recent scores are 3s. Mode, if you don't remember, because it's been a while since we've done mean, median, and mode, mode means which number happens the most often. Which number occurs the most often? Well, obviously here they're all 3s, so 3 happens the most often. But if we had 2 3s and a 2, 3 is still the number that happens the most often. So it would be a 3. If we had 2 2s and a 3, well, now 2 is the number that happens most often. So it would be a 2. If you have a 3, a 2, and a 1, you would get a 2. But all of these are included in the calculation. And you can see that very easily right here. We want to take the most recent because we don't want that first one where they were just trying it out or just learning. That shouldn't be held against them for the rest of the time, even though they know it now. So we just want to see, what do they know right now? What are they able to perform right now? So that's how this works. And then that's one of the learning targets that goes into this one. The other learning target is here. So we've got, again, 4, and that goes into this 3 because they're all 3s. Okay, so we just looked at one that's a 3. Now let's look at the one that's a 2. I'm going to click this. It'll expand. This is understanding the role online identity plays in the digital world and the permanence of their choices and decisions when interacting online. I'm going to click. I'm glad we do this. This is the digital citizenship. I can click on this and say, okay, I understand the role online identity plays in the digital world and the permanence of their choices and decisions when interacting online. Okay, who's glad that they teach this? Me. I'm glad. But this person got a 2. All right. So this person got a 2. Now, I hope you noticed where when we were up here, we had 4 different assignments. But when we were here, there's only 1 assignment. The question is, should you freak out? There's a 2 and you're not okay with 2s. Should we freak out? Are they failing? No, they're not failing. First of all, we're needing more evidence. He's learning. He'll get opportunities to redo this. This is not a time to panic. All right. You can ask them about, hey, this is where I think you should ask your kids question. What's going on with this? This doesn't fit anything else that you're doing. Ask questions, but this is not the time to panic about his grade. This is just one little piece of an assignment. It could be one question on an assignment that contributes to that. And the teacher would be able to tell us that. All right. So we've done kind of a basic overview. Remember, the 3, 2, 1 is outlined here. The colors are outlined here. We will talk about this key a little bit later. Let's move on to a different class. Let's move on to advanced math. Now, advanced math is a really hard class, by the way. Okay, so it's difficult. So there are more twos. Okay, automatically I see, what do I see in this progress bar? I see more yellow than I see green. So I'm a little bit more concerned. But I'm also looking at this, and this class has 86 learning targets that they're supposed to learn by the end of the year, and they've assessed 7. So we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. 7 is not very many. Remember, we're at the beginning of the year. I see 2s and I see several 2s. So I know that we're struggling more in this class than we are in technology. I can click down and I can see, oh, there are several assignments here. Ratios pizza party. Here's something that I really want you to look at, because this is why you want to get down and really look at it. I'm seeing that this same idea, use ratio reasoning to solve real world and mathematical problems by reasoning about tables of equivalent ratios, tape diagrams, double number lines, or equations. Anybody else know what that means? This is something that they're learning right now. I see that in the beginning, he took this and he got a 2. Then he got a 3 on this. We'll talk about that. He got a 3, then he got a 1, and then he got a 2. This 1 doesn't fit to me. This might be a case to where he had a bad day, he had an oops, maybe, I don't know. But I'm not as worried about that 1 as I would be. If they were all 1s, I would worry, right? If they were all 2s, I would worry. But he is understanding some parts of this. And then maybe there was a bad day. Again, I would ask my kid. So you can see a 3, a 2, and a 1 equals a 2 here. Another thing I wanted to show you is when I go down here, you'll notice that Ratios Pizza Party is there again. Now, we don't have as many pieces of evidence for this particular learning target. This is using tables to compare equivalent ratios relating quantities with whole number measurements. Now, you got a 2 on this. Well, why is this assignment being used twice? So here's what teachers are doing, and it's incredible and amazing, and it really is wonderful. They give an assignment, and they're breaking down the parts of the assignment to see where they're really struggling. I'm going to take it back to old school. Let's pretend that we were doing long division. They don't do long division anymore, by the way. Let's pretend we were doing long division back in the day, or a word problem, and it was a word problem that we had to understand. We had to pick the operation, which was division, and then we had to do the long division. And then long division, we have to understand division, we have to understand multiplication, and we have to understand subtraction. And we probably have to understand borrowing, or what they call regrouping now. There are a lot of skills in this one word problem. When a teacher looks at the word problem and your answer, they might look at it and say, okay, they understood which function they needed to use. They needed to use division. That's right. So in that area, 3, okay, choosing the right operation. But then when they got to the division, they just do not understand their multiplication. They don't understand how multiplication goes into the division. They don't understand, or they don't understand the place value of the numbers. So maybe in place value, they get a 2. And then maybe with subtraction and understanding regrouping, they really mess it up. But you can see where the kid had the breakdown. Okay. So that's why they're using these assignments, like this part of the assignment to where he has to compare equivalent ratios relating quantities with whole number measurements. That part did okay. But maybe on another part, he did really well. But they're breaking it down. And then, so for one assignment or word problem, they could get like 4 different pieces of evidence from that to really tell us, what does the student need? What do they need? Where do we need to concentrate our efforts as we are helping them progress through these concepts? So keep in mind, you may see repeating assignments. All right. Every family gets to decide what their threshold is for grades. I can remember growing up, what was acceptable to my family. And then I have a friend whose parents accepted nothing but A's, nothing, nothing, nothing. And that's okay because that's their family's choice. And then I had some friends where they didn't care what grades they made. They didn't even look, they didn't care. They don't care. And that's their decision to make. So you get to make your decision. But I will say that when you see more yellow than green, well, there's some concern there. All right. And you need to ask, how's it going? How can I help? How can I support? And we'll talk about that a little bit. Um, let's look at this key. You might see when you get down to those assignments, remember we broke it down and we broke it down again. We're looking at these assignments. You might see this little present. All right. I go over to the key. This means excused and not counted towards a student grade. So it's a gift, I guess. They don't have to do that assignment. There are several reasons why someone might not do the assignment. And you can see it's not calculated in the final grade, right? They've got a two, and a one that is calculated in. But this means that this assignment, they don't have to make it up. There's several reasons for this. One might be they're in Trek. If they go to Trek on Fridays, they're not required to make up those assignments, right? So they don't have to make up that assignment. So it's not going to be calculated into their grade. Also, there could be a case of, hey, they've already shown me that they've mastered it. We're still going to do another couple of tries to see if they can learn it, but they don't have to worry about it. They don't have to take it. They don't have to do the assignment. So that can go in there. Sometimes it'll be blank because they don't have to do it because they've already shown me mastery. So those are a couple of reasons that you might see present. Now, here is the one that I need you to pay the most attention to. This is a big red flag for all parents. I really need your help here. When you see a magnifying glass, you need to stop and talk to your kid. It right here, magnifying glass means it's missing. The assignment will also be written in red. They're doing all they can to let you know this is a student behavior problem. They didn't do it. We don't actually give a whole lot of homework. So this means they're in class and they didn't turn it in. We need your help with that. That's a behavior. So talk to them, question them, grill them. Do what you need to do because this part is where we could really use help. You'll also see right here, this teacher wrote in some feedback. They can't possibly write feedback for all of the pieces of evidence for every kid, but this piece of feedback says, please see Google Classroom for feedback. This is a great thing that this teacher has done. Now you know that you can go to Google Classroom and you can see what happened, what went on, why is it missing. So be looking for these things as you go through the grade book with your students. So let's talk about when and how to communicate with your teachers. First of all, when I would make a routine for checking grades. I'm asking you to do that. Make them responsible for showing you. This is a Mama Lions tip. With my kids, now they're older, but I would have them take a screenshot and text me the screenshot of their grades once a week. They knew I was going to ask. It was very transparent. There was no hiding it. There was no stress on their end as far as hiding it from me. They knew that I would know because it happened every week. Mr. Bruner, he says, hey, bring me your Chromebook with his son every Tuesday. They do this. Bring me your Chromebook, open it up, show me your grades. You get to decide what to do with that because each family has their own decisions to make there. But I've heard of people deciding if they can do some extra, like go to a party or you have this reward, whatever, based on their grades. That's up to you. Again, I highly recommend if you're going to reward or punish, make it for work habits, not necessarily the intelligence level. So, because we're working really hard, but if it's because they are not doing what they're supposed to do, feel free. Okay. And then once you start checking those grades weekly, then once you start seeing ones pile up, twos, you can have some concerns and you can reach out. That threshold is up to you. But honestly, if no one has reached out to you and you see some ones piling up, and I'm hoping that someone does reach out to you by then, but you need to take the initiative and you need to reach out to the teacher. How? Okay, our website has a directory now. This is new. You can click on this and go to menu, go to directory, and we are all listed right here. So if you want to send a message to Miss Bennett, then you just do this, tell them you're not a robot, and send the message, and Miss Bennett will get it. So that way you don't have to remember their exact name or their exact email address. It's right there, just a couple of clicks away. Oops. We're going to go back. All right. And ask questions. Okay, this is the part that I think this is one of the more important parts for me. Ask questions. I don't know anyone in my history of knowing people. I don't know anyone. I keep moving myself around. I don't know anyone who responds better to demands than they do questions. Demands can look like this. Explain to me why my son has a X, Y, and Z. Demands and making people defensive or have to explain themselves as teachers is probably not going to get you as far as if you ask questions and assume best intentions. I encourage you to do that with your child as well. Assume best intentions, ask questions. Don't start with the demand, start with questions. So let's start with asking your child questions. I think that's where you should start. When you see they're struggling, or when you think, oh no, there's something wrong, there's some bad grades, twos, ones piling up. Ask your kids some questions. Determine from that conversation, is this they can't do it, they don't get it, they don't know how to do it, they just don't understand, or an oops, to where they messed up and either they didn't turn it in or it was just a silly mistake. Like that one grade we looked to where it was a 3, a 2, but there were 2s and 3s, but then there's that one. Maybe that was just an oops day. Maybe that was just not their best day. Sometimes that happens, and we've got to be okay with maybe not allowing it to happen, but understanding that those do happen. And then, or is it a behavior? Are they being distracted? Are they not following directions? Are they misbehaving? So you know your kid best. You'll be able to tell from the conversation when you ask questions what's going on. With your child, and not your child by themselves, because I do think we've got to remember that sometimes solutions, I want you to come up with a list of solutions with your child. We can't assume that they're going to naturally know all the solutions that are out there. This is our job to teach them, and to hopefully they'll use these solutions as they continue on throughout their life. But we don't need to assume or think that they can come up with all of them by themselves. They might be able to come up with a couple, but there might be some that you can help them brainstorm. So you and your child sit down, come up with a list of possible solutions. Some of them might be, okay, I need to get rid of everything that's going to distract me during a lesson and put it under my table before I actually start the lesson. Or I need to make sure that I ask questions if I don't understand something, and I need to raise my hand or go to the teacher's desk, whatever the process is. And I need to do that every time. Or I need to go straight to my seat and sit down instead of wandering the room and socializing. That would be me. So that I can get my work done. If some of these solutions involve the teacher knowing, then contact the teacher. Some of them won't require the teacher, like me getting rid of the stuff on my desk so I'm not distracted. That doesn't require the teacher, right? So your kid can manage that on their own. But if there are some solutions that, like I may need a little extra help because I'm embarrassed to ask for help. So the teacher can help you come up with a solution or a strategy to use in their classroom. But always, as always, watch out for middle schooler red flags and trickery. Okay. I love middle schoolers. My whole life is about middle schoolers. I just adore them. They are so clever, and we've taught them to be so smart. Sometimes they use their gifts for evil, and they try to trick us. So here's what it might look like. Like in virtual, I came up with this in virtual, but there are definitely some red flag middle school tactics that they use in real life too. It sounds like this. I asked for help, but the teacher will never help me. You guys, that's not true. It's not true. We have the best teachers, and I'm not fibbing at all. We have such great teachers. Your teachers want your children to do well. They want to help your children. They might be also helping them to be independent, but I can't imagine a child asking for help and them denying them the opportunity. But middle schoolers do tend to try. I try to ask for help and they won't help me at all. Or I didn't know we were supposed to do that. She didn't say we were supposed to do that. She didn't teach me how to do that. That's why I didn't understand it, is because she didn't teach it. She gave us a whole test on stuff she didn't teach. You guys, no, 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 no. Don't fall for any of those. Those are red flags. However, I do understand as a parent that you want to validate and let your child know that you're there for them and that you hear them, and you want them to always keep talking to you, because that's me too. Um, Here's my suggestion. Sometimes you can have a conversation. They're using the middle school trickery, and you can say, "Man, that's a bummer. That sounds horrible. Well, man, that sounds rough. I wish I could help. Let's come up with some ideas and some strategies to use for when you don't feel like you can get any help. What could you do?" And then help them come up with solutions. Um, that's how I would handle that. Next, you might need to talk to the teacher. There might be some real questions that you have. Um, I want you to always feel free to reach out to the teacher. So let's move on to asking the teacher questions. If your child's teacher, you need to ask them questions. First of all, please assume best intentions. Please know that these teachers have dedicated their lives to your students. They want the best for your students, and they are doing such hard work all day, every day for your students. No one is out to get your student. So please assume best intentions and ask questions. That's my biggest recommendation. Ask questions. It always goes over pretty well. Ask about that specific learning target. I just showed you, there are ways that you can look at those learning targets and say, okay, this predicting reasonable outcomes based on patterns such as cause and effect relationships. You guys, I don't even know what that means. Okay. I probably should, but I don't. All right. So you might be saying, hey, I noticed that they got a one, or they're getting some ones in that particular learning target, and ask them, what does that mean? What does it look like in the classroom if someone's doing that successfully, or if a kid understands it versus what my student is producing? Like, where's their level of understanding? And what's the importance of the learning target? I know as a mom, sometimes they come down like that, all those words together, and your first reaction, your inside, I hope it stays inside. Your inside reaction might be, why are they learning that? I don't even know what that is. I don't need to know that. Okay, that's not a great answer, right? It's like, you don't even need to learn that. Ask your teacher, what is the importance of the learning target? They will let you know why it's important and a building block to their future. Um, and it will help you have that conversation with a student as to why it's so important that they pay attention and they get this mastered. Your teachers are such a wealth of knowledge, and they have such good resources. They can give you ideas for maybe websites that you could get some practice on. They could give you ideas for games or different things that you can do quickly in your home that don't take much prep, like maybe point out all the things that heat energy transferring all over the house or in your community or just in the world. There are all kinds of different things and resources and tips that they can give you. Use them. In that conversation with the teacher, you might get a better idea of if it's a can't, if it's an oops, or if it's a behavior. I keep going over those three things because how you respond to each of those things is different. If it's a can't, we have to have a different response than if it's an oops. And we have to have a different response than if it's a behavior. We've got to tackle all of those things in a different way to get the best results and to get them to be the best person they can be. Teacher can help you with that and can give you some ideas of how to tackle those things. Ask the teacher for possible solutions, ways you can help, and ask if they're already receiving help at school. If they aren't, ask if there's anything available. One thing that I want to go over is all the things we offer at Old High. They may already be getting some help at school, and you may not know it, and I'll kind of go over that too. But I wanted to go over the four, well, I guess it's really 4.5 different layers of instruction. So everybody gets their classroom instruction with those state standards, their grade level. The classroom teacher is giving the instruction. Everybody gets that. Let's say that there's something that really is tricking them up. I always use my son as an example for informal tier 2 instruction, to where in fifth grade you have to represent dividing fractions, and that's a whole other thing. But I asked the teacher, hey, what does that look like? Because I don't know what that looks like. And she gave me what it looks like. And so then I could help him at home. My son, he just needs a little bit more time and a little extra instruction on a couple of things, not everything. And then there's always that moment when he goes, oh, and then he gets it, and we're done. We don't have to go over it again. He just gets it. So we pull kids all the time when they're getting stuck, or if they're absent and they need to do some makeup work. This happens during nighttime or PE time. Okay. It's the classroom teacher that's pulling them, and it's as needed. The teacher decides, oh gosh, they made a 2, or oh, they made a 1. I need to go back over that with them, and they pull them. Okay, so let's say that's happening. But let's say that, okay, I pulled them in for that, and I have to pull them in for this next standard. And okay, I'm seeing a pattern here that they just really, on a consistent basis, need a little bit more time, a little bit more instruction. What they'll do then is they will start formal tier 2. That's when we talk about it as an RTI group. It'll be scheduled maybe twice a week, maybe once a week, maybe 4 times a week. That's very rare, but maybe 4 times a week, the math teacher is pulling them to work on something, or the literacy teacher, science, it can be any of them. They're still going over the grade level standards that they're teaching in class, this number 1 layer. They're still going over those things, but they're doing it at nighttime and PE so that they can keep up, because we don't want them getting behind in grade level standards, right? So we're giving them that extra time, and it's a real small group and with the teacher. So this proves to be really beneficial, but it might be on a consistent basis. And the teacher, now they should reach out to you if they're pulling them on a consistent basis. You should know about that. As they're working in that formal tier 2, if they're like, ooh, we're not seeing much progress, and we think that maybe it's not a grade level problem, there's some foundational gaps. Foundational means some things that they might have learned in elementary. And you guys, they've all been through COVID, so they might have some gaps in their learning. But let's say they're having a hard time just sounding out words. At this level, we don't have time to teach how to sound out words in the regular classroom, but we definitely have a time for that. Maybe they don't understand place value, number sense, those sorts of things. So this might require a formal tier 3. What that looks like is at a different time. And we're not covering grade level standards in tier 3. What we're covering here is foundational concepts like adding, subtracting, multiplication, place value, number sense, or if they have characteristics of dyslexia, or if they're diagnosed with dyslexia, covering all of the foundational reading parts of sounding out. And really, they just need some different rules to play by as far as reading. So, and they also cover comprehension and vocabulary and all kinds of things in there. This is determined by our RTI committee, and you will always know if you have a student in tier 3. If you have a student getting tier 3 instruction, you will always know. There will be a letter sent home. This happens during PLT, which is separate time from nighttime and PE. PLT is when all students are in their homeroom classroom and they are working on Lexia, Zern, Reflex. They're software programs that are personalized to them and giving them exactly what they need, but it's all computerized. So the homeroom is doing that. If they have some foundational issues, they're being pulled from that. And instead of doing computer programs, they're going and they're getting this extra foundational learning that they need. And by doing this at a separate time during PLT, right now what I can see is I have everybody's getting the grade level instruction, and they're getting help with that grade level instruction, and they're getting help with their foundational instruction. All right? They can do all 3, because what we want to do is we want to close that gap. But if we don't make room for intervening on all levels, then that gap will just kind of keep going with them. Now, it does happen every once in a while that we determine that a student needs a bit more help. They need a 4th layer. And that's determined by special education testing. They'll have to be referred, and we do that by data in our RTI once a month meetings. So this happens with a co-teacher. A sped teacher gives this extra layer within the regular class, and then the foundational instruction is happening at the same time as the standards. But let me be clear, if they get to this fourth layer, it is a fourth layer. They are not removed from layer 1, 2, or 3. All right. So we're really, really proud of this at Old High. We want to make sure that they get all 4 layers. They have that available to them every school day, all 4 layers. You guys, the teachers are working hard. They're working hard for your kids. They're going down to that granular level, figuring out specifically what each child needs, and then they're making time and room to make sure that they get that. Everyone gets what they need. It's really, really cool. Your kids are working hard too. The kids are working hard. One of the reasons I tell you this is I want you to be proud of the teachers, like I'm proud of the teachers, and I want you to be proud of the education that your students are getting. Another reason is we're going to go back to middle school's trickery. We understand if your child comes home and says, I don't ever get to go to PE, I want to go to PE. And we totally understand. We want them to be active, lifelong active individuals. We believe in the importance of being active and being an active, healthy lifestyle. Here's how we feel about it, though. We do pull them out of PE. Now, everybody goes to PE once a week. The state requires 40 minutes of PE in a week. We make sure absolutely everybody goes to PE on Friday. Absolutely. But here's why we pull out of PE. I believe that families can provide physical activity for their children after school. You guys can do that. You're prepared. You have everything you need. You can provide the physical activity after school for your children if they need that extra exertion during the day, if they need all of that. What I don't know that you're prepared for is dyslexia intervention, or how to help them with at the expertise level that our teachers can, how to help them with representing dividing fractions without using numbers, or any of those learning targets that I just read off. Those are difficult. We're trained to do that. We can't follow you home and do that for you after school, but we want to choose that and we want to prioritize that because we know that you can provide that physical activity for your students. That's why we make the choices that we make. We're here to make sure that by the time they leave Old High, they are better than when they got to us. They are reaching monumental potential because we believe they are the very best. We're all lucky to be a part of Old High. I hope that this has helped you be able to support your students as you're working with them. I hope that it helps you remember to reach out to teachers. And I hope it helps you with different things to reach out to your teachers and say. We're all in this together. And I think with all of us, we're going to make these kids into something spectacular. Okay, thanks for joining me. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out through email, which is all on our website. Thank you.